Hi, I'm Nasif. This is the spending management tool that I've developed. It's called the Money Manager. So using this application, the user can manage expenses. The user will first have to create a category, and then the user can add expenses under that category. So let me demonstrate that. So let me add a new category called food. Give it a budget, and then select a color. Give it a note and then save it, so the category gets selected. So right now there are no expenses for that category, so we can add an expense. Give the expense an amount. Call it Hilton. And if the user wants to, the user can actually add this expense to the calendar. Maybe if it's a future expense, or maybe if the expense was already due, if it was a past expense, the user can add it to the calendar. The user can select the date, which would open up a date picker. Select the date, so I'll select 28th of May 2021 and toggle add to calendar on, and the user can select the occurrence, which is if the user wants this expense to be repeated either daily or weekly or monthly, or if it's just one time. So in this case I'll just add it as a one-time expense, and so the expense got added, and it populates a pie chart with that expense. So since it's the only expense, it only shows one over here. So let me just add a few more expenses. And save that. So as you can see, as I added the expense, the pie chart got updated, and so did these values, which is the total budget for this specific category, and then the total spendings, which is sum of all the expenses, and then the balance. So let me add more expenses. And then I'll add one more expense. And I'll add one more expense as well. And so right now I've added 5 expenses. So what has happened is that it has taken the top 4 highest expenses and populated into this pie chart, and the other expenses have been categorized as other. So if I were to add another expense, it would be added into other based on the value of the expense. Expenses can also be deleted and edited. So let me edit an expense. Let me change that to 300, and when I save it, the pie chart got updated, as well as all of these values over here: the total budget, the spent, and the remaining budget. Also, an individual expense has a progress bar integrated, which represents the specific expense against the total budget for this specific category. And this expense can also be deleted. Okay. And similarly, a category can also be edited. So if I am to update the budget from 1000 to 2000, that can be done. And when I save it, it gets updated to 2000. Also, the category can be deleted. So let me delete this category. So the category has been deleted. Also, the categories can be sorted, and let me add another category to demonstrate that. So right now there are two categories. So the categories can be sorted in ascending order, as well as on the frequency of the user using that category. So for example, to demonstrate the frequency, if the user keeps on using utilities would come to the top. To demonstrate that, let me add one more utility. Let's call it travel. Save that. So right now, food, utilities, and utilities have a higher view count than travel, whereas if I keep on viewing travel would come to the top. So the travel has been viewed more times by the user than compared to the utilities, and now travel has been viewed more times than the food and the utilities. Therefore, it has come to the top. So it's sorted based on the most frequently visited category expense. It can also be sorted in alphabetical order. So now it has been sorted in alphabetical order, and it can be sorted back based on the frequency. And expenses can also be added to the calendar, as I showed earlier. So let me just add another expense. Let me add this expense on the 30th of May. And I'm adding that to the calendar. And if I save this now, this expense has been added to the calendar. And let me show that to you in the calendar. So as you can see, the expense that we added earlier, lunch, on the 28th, an event has been created for that. It has been added to the calendar, as well as the expense that we just created called Jaffna with the note of bus on the 30th of May has been added to the calendar as well. Also, an event can be repeated in the calendar. So let me add on. This will be added on the 29th, added to the calendar, and I'll repeat it weekly, and when I save it, it has been added to the calendar. So let's go have a look at the calendar. So if you look at the 29th, it says office, and so if you move on to the next week, which is the 5th, the event office is there, so it repeats weekly. The application can also be closed, and when reopened, all the data would be there. So now let's have a look at how it has been implemented. So let's start with the storyboards. So this is the launch storyboard, launch screen storyboard, which is the splash screen. And then we have the main storyboard, where, as you can see, the entire UI has been designed. And then this is the category table view cell, which is where the outlets have been called, and similarly for the expense table view cells. And these are the UI table view cells. This is the custom pie chart, and this is the custom progress bar that is being used. Let me close these. This is the master view controller, which handles the logics for the categories. So here outlets have been created, and when the view loads, we load the categories, if any, and then here it's been initialized. So here the sakes have been created, and here is a little bit about the table views, customizing the table views. This is where we fetch the data from the core data, and then these are the swipe actions for the table view, where we have the edit and the delete action, depending on if it's an edit or not, where I would populate the data. And these are the controllers. This is where the sorting logic for the sorting has been done. It sorts based on the frequency of clicks, or on the ascending order of from A to Z. Then this is the expense view controller, where outlets have been created, which handles the expenses, where the pie charts are initiated, the views loaded, and loads any expenses if it exists. The pie charts initiated. So this is initiating the pie charts. This is customizing the table view for the expenses. Again, these are the swipe actions, which is the edit action and the delete action, where again, depending on if it's edit, populate it and save it, and if it's delete, delete the expense and then update the core data. So this is again the table view handling the occurrences, and again the pie charts. This is the add edit category popover. Which where the outlets are created, and on save the values have the values are taken in and passed in and saved into the core data. This is the cancel button. Similarly, this is the logics for the add edit the expense popover, which has again the outlets are created, checks if it's editable or not, and depending on that populate the data, and this handles the saving of the expense. And this is where the calendar, adding to the calendar has been done. The values have been passed into the calendar object, and it has been saved and passed into the core data. That's that. Then we have the model show, where I have the entities for the categories and the expenses. That's about it. Thank you.